Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we're going to do some feedback for another speaking test. So let's jump straight in. Good afternoon, my name is Glyn. Would you please tell me your full name?
My name is Aseel IELTS. You can just call me Aseel.
Okay, cool. So remember the question, what's your name? What should I call you? That's not tested, so it doesn't matter. Thank you, Aseel. Now, in this first part of the test, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Do you work or do you study?
Actually, I just graduated from my school this year, so
Cool, nice start. I just graduated from my school this year. Good.
currently I don't study, but
Currently, I don't study. Present simple is accurate.
also I don't work, but I study
Also, I don't work. Accurate.
English by myself in the
I study English by myself. Accurate. Good start.
home. So yeah,
And are you planning to study in the future?
yeah, of course. I wanna
Nice natural response. Yeah, of course. And I wanna. Nice shortening of the pronunciation.
I wanna complete my career to go to travel and study.
Don't know, but I want to complete my career. I don't know what that means. I want to let's listen again.
Go to travel and study. And I wanna complete my career to go to travel and study
I want to complete my career to go to travel and study. So I'm not quite sure what that means.
in the college.
And do you know what subject you'd like to study?
I'm a bit confused about that,
Cool, nice adjective. I'm a bit confused about that.
but
I would advise the candidate here, right? If you're probably the examiner will ask you, are you a student or do you work? Um, have a answer ready for this. Usually I say, don't try to predict all of the questions and don't try to memorize answers, but keep in mind they will either ask you about your hometown or they will ask you about your studies. And if they notice you're a young person and you're planning to study, of course they will want to know what subject you're planning to study. So you shouldn't be surprised. And it seems like the candidate is a little bit surprised by this question, but you should not be surprised by this.
I think I will go to artificial intelligence because that's very important.
Yeah, I will go to artificial intelligence. It doesn't make sense. I will go to a university which specializes in artificial intelligence, or I will try to find a course or a degree in artificial intelligence, but not go to artificial intelligence. There's a lack of vocabulary there.
In the future. Yeah.
And what would you like to do when you finish studying? Again, the candidate seems surprised by this question. Most young people, if you are the age of like 17, 18, 19, it's expected that you haven't chosen your career path yet, but it's expected that you will have some ideas about some work that you'd like to do in the future. If you're going to study AI, does it mean that you want to work in an IT company? Do you want to work with machine learning? Do you want to be a technician, a programmer, someone who writes code, a project manager? These questions shouldn't be surprising, and it seems like the candidate is a little bit like, "Oh, I didn't expect that." But these are very, very, normal, typical questions.
I don't know. I will get I will get to land the position in
Yeah, I will land a position. It's not detailed, right? What kind of position
the society to
in the society
make money. I think.
to make money? I mean, I'll get a job. Okay, congratulations. Like 99% of people you have a plan to get a job, but some details. And of course, there are reasons why a candidate might not give details. Number one is maybe they haven't thought about it before, but number two is maybe they lack the vocabulary to explain. And this is something we find with lower level learners. When they don't have enough vocabulary to explain something, they pretend that they don't know. Now, sometimes candidates really don't know, and so it's difficult for the examiner, but we can't get into your brain. We can only judge the language that's in front of us. And so, as an examiner here, the thing in my head is I asked the candidate what they were planning to do after they finish university, and the candidate was unable to provide any meaningful language to explain, right? And that could be because the candidate doesn't know, but according to the criteria, if the candidate cannot provide meaningful language to answer a question, that does count negatively against you in vocabulary. Let's move on now and talk about your morning routine. What time do you usually get up during the week?
I usually wake up in 6 a.m.
Cool. I usually wake up not in, but at, but okay, that's fine.
To go to the mosque and worship Allah.
Cool. Wake up at 6 to go to the mosque. Nice infinitive for purpose. And to worship Allah. Nice collocation there to worship a god or worship Allah. Good stuff.
After that, I go
Good sequencing after that. Nice.
to school. I go to school and
Candidate's a little bit confused now, just a little bit breaking down.
study for 12. I think 12 p.m. and go back to the home and
So it's just a little bit broken down. So I got, he wakes up early, he goes to the mosque to worship Allah, and then he goes to school, but he's talking, I don't know if he's talking about what time he goes to school or for how long he studies. It's not very clear.
get a nap for
And also, we've gone a little bit far into the day. The question was, what time do you usually wake up?
half hour, and after that I eat my lunch, and after that I study English, practice English for each day.
So we've gone too far, right? What time do you usually wake up, or what time do you usually get up in the morning? And you've told me about, what time you get up, and then what you do? You go to the mosque, and then what do you do? You go to school, and then what do you do? You have lunch, and then what do you do? You study English. It's too much information. And do you like to sleep longer at the weekend?
No, because that impact on my productive too.
Okay, cool. The noun here is productivity. So productive is an adjective, right? What kind of person are you? I'm a productive person, but it impacts on my, and now we need something, we need a noun. It impacts on my productivity, or it impacts my productivity. Candidate said it impact instead of it impacts. So we've had some correct control of present simple, but we do get a mistake now when we use that third person, he, she, it, which we know is a very common mistake on this channel.
You have to organize your sleep time.
I just notice a bit of false start here. You have to just notice it.
You have to organize your sleep time. You have to just sleep 8 hours every day.
So I would say this does put a strain on the listener when a lot. Now, some people have this speech impediment, this stutter, and it seems very, very unfair. If you do have a stutter, if you do have a speech impediment, it's always good to let the test center know in advance to see if they can accommodate you. I know sometimes people with a stutter, they can be given more time to do certain tasks. But just monitoring it or just looking at it objectively, I can say that there are a lot of false starts, a lot of repetitions and hesitations of words. I have to, and you have to, and this does put a strain on the listener. So when the listener's listening, they feel a little bit like uncomfortable. And is there anything about your morning routine that you'd like to change?
Mm. I would change the. I would actually.
So I think this hesitation is fine because I think the candidate really is thinking about what they'd like to change. I don't think they're looking for vocab or grammar. I think the candidate really is thinking about something he'd like to change. And so for me, that hesitation is absolutely fine. But let's see his idea.
Mhm.
Maybe the hesitation, the pause is just a little bit too long, and with more confident speakers, they talk through their doubts, right? Or they talk through their lack of thought. So, ooh, something I'd like to change. Ooh, let me think about that. I don't know. My morning routine, I've been doing this type of thing like for like 2 years or 3 years now. So I don't really think about any changes, but maybe, maybe it would be nice to do more exercise in the morning so they can talk through the process of finding words. Lower level learners, they just break down, they sit in silence and they just pause. So, try to speak through, try to verbalize some of your thoughts. Verbalize your thoughts means to say what you're thinking.
I would actually, I don't change anything, but I
Not I don't change, but I wouldn't change anything. It's a hypothetical. Is there anything you would like to change? Well, I wouldn't change anything.
would add some exercise to my routine.
Cool. Add some exercise to my routine. Very good collocation. They add something to something. Nice.
I would like to do some exercise in the morning because that's make
Cool. I would like to do some exercise. Even some exercise is good here. So candidate does show, glimpses. Good does show aspects of very positive language.
make you more healthy.
Make you healthier. Make you more healthy. Not a big mistake. It's okay. Let's move on now and talk about childhood memories. What's one of your earliest memories?
Mm, I don't
A bit of latency, right? A bit of a gap. Again, you could verbalize some of your thoughts.
think about that, but
Again, I don't think about that. Yeah, I know. Learning how to deal with questions that you've never thought about before, that's a skill, right? And that's something, if you have a teacher, if I was your teacher or if I was giving advice to your teacher, I would say, something you can work on are strategies of how to deal with questions that are completely surprising. What can you do? What are some different strategies? Because there are a lot, and I promise you, the one of silence is always the worst strategy. There are strategies out there, and this is a skill, and it's something that you can work on. If you have a teacher, or you can Google it, what to do, or ask ChatGPT, give me some advice. In IELTS, sometimes I don't know how to answer some questions and my mind goes blank and I stay silent. Can you give me some tips? Listen to the tips that ChatGPT gives you if you don't have a teacher, and practice. Try doing them.
uh, actually, I remember when I was kid in the school and play football in the school, something like that. I don't
Yeah, a bit of a fragment, a short answer. I was a kid in a school, play football, something like that. So, candidate isn't speaking in sentences here. And what else do you remember? So that's a very short, underdeveloped answer. Remember about your first school. So I'm just pushing for more details here. I probably shouldn't do this in part one. Probably I should just stick to my questions and stick to my prompts. But it's just a mock test.
I remember the teacher, of course, that was very kind, and I
Cool. So the teacher, very kind, it's quite a simple word. Can we develop that maybe? Maybe you can give examples of the teacher's kindness.
remember the president of school. Uh,
The president of school, not sure what he means. Maybe he's saying president of the school. Schools don't have a president, they usually have a principal or a headmaster or a headmistress or a head teacher. But I don't know about president. But I don't know if even if he's saying president.
and I remember my friends in school,
Cool. Can we give information about those friends?
and I keep in touch for now.
Okay, but we don't go into detail here, right? So if you say that your teacher's kind, cool. Give an example of that kindness. Oh, I remember my teacher was very kind. Kids, they some of the teachers, they shouted at us and they were very rude. But this one teacher, I always remember, she smiled a lot and I liked the tone of her voice. She never shouted, she never got angry. She was very calm and patient with all of the kids. This is the extra detail that's required to get you to that like 6.5, 7.5 higher. If we're thinking about the higher band scores, we have to develop better. And what do you remember about your teachers in the school? So again, I'm trying to push for more information. Basically, I'm saying like, hey, let's see if you know this vocab or not.
I remember how was they kind of
I remember how kind they were.
for me and how teach me a lot.
Okay, but you're repeating, they were kind to me, they taught me a lot, but you say they teach me a lot, but we should be in the past. They taught me a lot, or they used to teach me a lot. But can you give details?
about the life I make me success.
Again, it just feels a little bit vague, a bit general. They taught me a lot about life. It's very simple language, but it's very general language. It's not detailed, it's not specific.
Successful.
But it is an answer to the question. I just always keep in mind, right? IELTS is a multi level test. So we're thinking about C2, C1, B2, B1, A2. Those are the different levels that we're thinking about. So when I give advice here, I'm usually giving advice about like how to get to the seven. If this candidate was at, let's say he was taking Cambridge preliminary, I would be talking a lot more about the positive features of the candidate's language. Because the candidate does extend his answers, he does give, he does use vocab that is appropriate to deal with the questions in part one. I'm just thinking, if you want to get to that 6.57, 7.5, you have to develop more. If you're happy with 5.5, you're doing okay. And do you remember any special birthdays you had in your childhood?
Mm,
Game we get latency, verbalize your thoughts. Birthdays, I'm not sure, like in my country we don't really celebrate birthdays that much, or birthdays, I'm not sure, in my family birthdays weren't such a big thing, or you know what, birthdays, that for me they just weren't very important. Or birthdays, there are just so many to choose from. You can verbalize your thoughts, you can say what you're thinking, and that will be better than silence.
I remember that period when I was 10 years. My
Not 18 years, but 18, or 18 years old, but not 18 years.
my parents make a birthday for me.
Pastime. And I don't know what it means to make a birthday. They organized a party for me, or I had a party, or my parents threw a party for me, but I don't know. My parents make a birthday. That's not a collocation.
Me and invited the whole
Cool, we get pastime here, invited, so a little bit of control over pastime, but often forgets it.
neighbor in my
Invited all of my neighbors, or the whole neighborhood. So neighbors are people, neighborhood is the area. So they invited all of my neighbors, they invited the whole neighborhood.
my my
Okay, so the candidate is trying to get the language out, but just can't find the right vocab there. So there are some lapses, some gaps in the candidate's lexical resource. It is limited. And what happy memories do you have of your friends from your childhood? Again,
I
notice
don't
the
have a lot of
not so much
happy
delay.
memories with my friends, but if I were to talk about that, I will talk about my
Cool. If I were to talk about that, that's nice. I think it's probably memorized language, but I think it works absolutely fine. If I were to talk about that, I think that's a strategy the candidate has learned, but I think it works okay here.
friends Ahmed. I have a lot of
Just didn't quite get that.
friends
Let's
Ahmed happy memories with my friends, but if I were to talk about that, I will talk about my friends Ahmed. I have a lot
I would talk about my friend Aflaga. Is that the name of a friend? I'm not sure.
of things to talk about,
So now we're really putting a strain with the mumbling, with just sounds which aren't words. That puts a strain on the listener.
like we was went to
Not we was went, just we went.
the cinema every day and went
Not with they, but with them. So it's strange because the candidate was using some good language, and now we get like with they, was went. It's very strange language now.
to the restaurant.
Maybe as we go through the test, candidate starts to feel a little bit more like freaked out, a bit more nervous because some of the questions have been difficult. Maybe that has an influence on the candidate's accuracy. Okay, thank you. Now, in this next. Okay, thoughts on part one. A mixed bag. Some nice starts, some control over simple grammar, but with frequent lapses. And I think that's probably according to the descriptors, that's closer to a band 5. Do we get any complex structures? Not really. The most complex structure we had was like, I would like to do something, or if I were to do something. So those were two examples of kind of complex structures, but, you know, not really many attempts with complex structures with any regularity. So at the moment, between 5 and the 6 with grammar, vocabulary is just falling short. We just get a crippling lack of detail, unfortunately. Some of the vocab is okay to add exercise to my daily routine. Something like that was good. To worship a god, that's good. To go to a mosque, that's good. But then once we try to get into any details, we don't really get much. So again, between the 5 and the 6 on the vocab. Pronunciation is generally clear, but candidate seems not very energized. It seems that the pressure of the test is affecting the candidate's pronunciation. I don't think he's speaking loudly enough. I don't think he's speaking clearly enough. Sometimes when people get nervous, they try to speak a little bit like this because they almost like psychologically we are defensive over the language we use, and so we start to say things very quietly. Um, and I think candidates should speak a little bit louder, a little bit more precisely. Intonation just feels a little bit flat. So again, I think generally it is okay to understand him. So I think pronunciation he is probably at the 6. There are no like hideous errors, and I don't think his pronunciation in general puts a strain on the listener. There are just moments where that happens. Fluency and coherence probably at 5 at the moment. Again, I just don't like the development. Some of the answers are very short. Some of the answers are too long. Some of the answers are a little bit off topic. But okay, we can improve that fluency and coherence for sure in part 2. Part 2 is all about fluency and coherence, speaking at length about a topic for 2 minutes. Um, yeah, nice opportunity to use lots of cohesive devices and so on. So describe a memorable journey you took. This is past time, where you went, how you traveled, what you did during the journey. All of that is past time. Again, past simple, past continuous, past perfect continuous. I did, I was doing, I had done, I had been doing. You can use past modals: would have done, could have done, should have done, might have done, will have done, even can't have done, possibly. Reported speech, like they said that it was going to be, or I knew that I had done something. Sequence of tenses, all of that good stuff. Even third conditionals, mixed conditionals. So much scope for grammar here, but of course, when the candidate's level is B1, you don't expect them to produce anything more than past simple, past continuous. But let's see how the candidate does here. 1 minute of preparation time start. Mind you, you will have between 1 and 2 minutes to give your talk. Okay, Glyn, get on with it, and I will let you know when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
First of all, the journey was about the zoo.
First of all, it sounds like we're listing points or something. I don't think it's the best way to introduce. First of all, is a great way to introduce like a body paragraph or to introduce a point, but I don't think it's the best way to introduce the talk. You could describe it like you could introduce it like, so thinking back to a journey that I remember really, really well. Well, probably I'm going to talk about blah, 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 blah. Right? That's a nice way. Not first of all.
The school organized the
Organized pastime.
journey to go to the zoo and see the animals, and we go by the bus.
So notice candidate is only about 15 seconds in, and they've already answered, or he's already answered the first two questions. We want to relax a bit and take our time to expand some of these points.
That's a big bus for the school, and actually I spent a lovely time with my friends and my teachers, and we was till
Not we was, but we were.
tells a joke and tells
We were tell a joke. We told jokes, or we were telling jokes.
a funny story in the past, and that's
Funny stories, plural, I guess.
make us more cheerful.
Made us more cheerful. So, candidate is demonstrating now that they've lost control over present and past time, which is a big problem for grammar. It's the easiest thing, I promise you, as an examiner, the easiest thing to spot, or the easiest question to ask yourself as an examiner or even a new teacher. Does the candidate understand that we have present time, past time, and future time? And does the candidate choose the correct grammar constructions that help us talk about present time, past time, future time? Now, if the candidate uses past simple but they should use past continuous, it's not a big problem because the candidate at least demonstrates there that they know that it's past time. But if the candidate is using present simple to talk about the past, to me, this shows the most fundamental, basic, systematic error in English, apart from maybe verb to be, present simple. Um, yeah, and that's disappointing because the candidates start with organized, and it was like, oh, great, it's past time. But now the candidate is just using present time constructions, and it's a huge disappointment. Like, it really puts a limit. Like, I would never award more than 5 for grammatical range and accuracy if the candidate had if the candidate was just using present simple to talk about present time and past time. Um,
about the journey. So after that, when we arrived to the zoo, we saw the animals and
yeah, but now you're talking about after the journey is finished, right? And the purpose is to focus on the journey, not the trip, not what you did on at the zoo, but what you did on the bus. So that's where the focus should be. What you did on the bus, not what you did at the zoo.
the
At the zoo, in the zoo. Both of them sound okay to me.
zoo was vibrant actually, and
Okay, the zoo was vibrant. Sounds like memorized language. I'm not sure that the candidate fully knows what vibrant means, or I'm not sure that the candidate really believes that the zoo was vibrant. I think the candidate has just learnt the word vibrant, one of those like, oh, in IELTS, don't say good, say vibrant, and the candidate is just using vibrant. But there's no backing up, like, there's no supporting evidence to explain what he means when he describes the zoo as vibrant. He just throws the word out there, the zoo was vibrant.
there is a lot of color and in the vibrant, and that's
Okay, maybe he's added a bit of detail. There was a lot of color. That kind of explains it. But what was colorful? Are you talking about the animals themselves? Are you talking about the parks that were there? Are you talking about like the restaurants? Maybe the inside of the buildings in the zoo were decorated with like bright animals. That would make it vibrant. But you have to give these details.
make you more happy or something like that. Uh,
This or something like that. I don't know. It's okay in an emergency, but we don't want to use it too much.
I would actually to make this again with my friends,
I want to do this again, not make. So, do and make is always a problem in English, I know.
and that's actually make you pleasant.
That is actually make you pleasant. Yeah, again, this that's doesn't work. That makes you, but not pleasant. That makes you pleased. That gives you pleasure.
Of the memorable things, something like that.
And again, something like that. So that's the candidate's go to. And the candidate breaks down and can no longer produce more language. They say something like that as the signpost to say, like, kind of like, I give up and I don't really know what more to say. Okay, thank you. So, candidate, you've been talking about a memorable. So the candidate only spoke for about 1 minute 20, as I remember. So, over the 1 minute, but still a little bit short. And it certainly felt like the candidate had finished completing, like, or finished responding to the details on the cue card after about, 30 seconds or 40 seconds. Candidate had to go off topic and start speaking about the zoo instead of the journey. There was really very little focus on the journey. We only know that they went by bus and we know that they told jokes and stories, and that's about it. We don't really know much uh, about that journey, unfortunately. Vocab again, lack of details. Grammar, unfortunately, here is very problematic. That candidate continued to use present time tenses to talk about past time. It's a huge, huge, huge problem for grammar. And then for pronunciation, again, I think he was okay. Again, the same problems where it just seems I don't know, candidate seems like he's a little bit bored, like he's not enjoying himself, or that he's maybe nervous or just not feeling like he's in a good mood because a lot of his answers are downbeat. He seems a little bit sad, and I don't think that's an appropriate tone at an IELTS exam where you're trying to speak, you're trying to be enthusiastic, you're trying to be positive, you're trying to leave a positive impression on the examiner. We don't really get that intonation from the candidate, but still easy enough to understand the pronunciation. So at the moment, I'm thinking 5556. But let's continue to part three. Journey you took. Now let's talk about travel and tourism. How do you think traveling can change a person's beliefs?
Actually, when you travel a lot there is someone love to travel. That's makes that's change
So notice the breakdown, the false start.
his thoughts about the people. Like if you live in one country, you can just thought about the country you live in. But when you travel and see different people, different
Good bit of intonation there. So, but when you travel, so there was a change in intonation after the contrast of but. So that was good.
culture, you can see
I'll just show you that again. So it does come to life a little bit.
in one country, you can just thought about the country you live in. But when you travel and see different people, different
And his hands, he starts becoming more active now. But when you travel, and that was a good bit of intonation. So it's nice that it's there, but we want more of this stuff.
culture, you can see the world actually, the whole world, and your thoughts will change absolutely.
Okay, so was there a full, like, was there a beautiful flow of speech? No. But was this a good developed answer? Absolutely. I think this was a positive answer. When you travel, you can see the world. If you don't travel, you stay in your own country and you kind of only think about things in terms of your own country. But when you travel, you get to see a lot more and you learn a lot more. So I think, that answer was a nice, well developed answer. Good start to part three. And in general, do you think it's better for people to travel inside their own country or to travel to other countries?
In my opinion, I think
Cool, in my opinion, good functional language.
you have to
I don't know, in my opinion, and I think. I don't think you need both of these. In my opinion, you have to do something, or I think you have to do something. But I don't like, in my opinion, I think you have to do something. Because you have, in my opinion, which is a adverbial phrase here, and then you have, or a prepositional phrase, and I think, which is like a modal clause, but they're both performing the same functional language, right? They're both saying, my opinion is this. And so we don't need both of those.
visit both. You have to go to another cities in your country, and you have to go another countries because that's like what I said. That's
I'm not going to correct the grammar anymore. I think I've done enough correction with the grammar, so I'll leave the grammar.
make you more awareness about the world and
Make you more aware. It gives you more awareness, but it makes you more aware. So after make somebody, we use an adjective, usually make someone happy, make someone sad, make someone aware, but give somebody pleasure, give somebody positivity, give somebody awareness. This traveling gives you more awareness.
more awareness about
Oh, we got awareness this time. Nice.
the thoughts about and about the other culture.
And why do you think it's good to learn about other? So vocab is picking up a little bit. I think even though we're not getting like nice collocations and there are a lot of inappropriate words, I think Candidate is using some good vocab cultures.
That's because
So the question is, why is it important to learn about other cultures?
because when you
When you saw, now we've gone back to the past and we should be talking about the present.
saw a different person with a different thoughts, you have to respect you have to respect you have to respect the person and
Okay, I agree, right? When you meet a person from another culture, you have to respect them. I think that's a general nice rule for life. But the question is, why is it important to learn about other cultures? Like what benefits does it give us? What advantages does it give us? Why should we do this? It isn't a real answer to say, oh, because if you meet people, you have to respect them. I think I kind of see where you're going, but it doesn't fully satisfy me.
You have to don't judge about her thoughts.
Yeah, not you have to don't, but you shouldn't judge.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, answer's just short and undeveloped, really. And when people go to other countries, what kind of things can they do to make sure that they respect local customs and local traditions? Cool. So lots of possibilities here, right? Firstly, you can read about the culture where you're going. You can find out about, normal things in their etiquette, things that you should or shouldn't do. And you can follow those etiquette things. Like, for example, some people think it's okay to shake hands with women. Some people think in some cultures it's not okay to shake hands with women. In some cultures, you must shake hands with the right hand, not the left hand. So learning about some of these customs before you visit, that can help. Also, maybe learning a little bit of language, just learning like words like please and thank you in the other person's language. That shows some respect. Some other things that you could do is maybe find out if it's normal to give a gift and maybe to take some souvenirs from your country, getting ready that when you meet people you can give them some souvenirs and offer some type of cultural exchange. That shows some level of respect, right? So lots of ideas here.
Firstly, you have don't
Not you have don't, so let's just have don't.
you have don't make jokes about the culture and also
You shouldn't make jokes about the culture. Okay, maybe that's a good way of showing respect, not making jokes. Okay, fair enough.
something like that, and don't be overbearing or something like that.
Overbearing's a good word here. I wish he would extend a little bit and explain what he means by overbearing.
You have to be respectful and tolerant.
Yeah, but you have to be respectful. This is tautology, right? Like, it's like, why do you like it? Because it's good. Well, okay, but how can we show respect? You can talk respectfully. Um, okay,
Respectful.
you can talk respectful. How can we show respect? We can talk respectful. It's not. Don't. We need more details. And what does it mean to talk respectful?
Talk talk as a person, as a human, and not
Talk as a person, as a human. We all talk as a person and a human, right? There's no other animal that's doing this language thing. This is only humans, so not really an explanation.
يعني, you don't have to judge about the people and judge about
Yeah, but not don't have to, but you shouldn't. So yeah, you have a few mistakes actually with this negative of don't have to. The difference between like mustn't, can't, shouldn't, don't have to. I think that's an area of grammar that you could look at.
their thoughts. Uh, you have to respect them.
Yeah, but what are some ways that we can show respect? You have to respect them. To me, that shows a very limited lexical resource. And how can local businesses benefit from tourism? So I've decided what scores the candidate's going to get, but we will just listen to the rest of the test.
Actually, the local
Quite a few answers have begun with actually, but okay.
business is very beneficial for tourism because and very beneficial to the country because if there are a lot of local business that's rise the economy of the country and the tourists have a good time in the country also.
I get the point that he's making here. I think he could use more vocab to explain it better, but I think his answer is fair. And what kind of businesses benefit most from tourism? This should be quite an easy question for speaking part three. What kind of businesses benefit from tourism? Well, what is the tourism sector? Well, we can think about restaurants, we can think about hotels, we could even think about some private transportation companies, we can think about tour guide services. Basically, anything in the service industry is boosted by this. Shops that sell souvenirs, things like this. These are all things that benefit from tourism. But can the candidate find one of them and talk about them?
Like when you go to when you travel to another country You can see the events and the business, the random
You can see the events and the business, but the kinds of business.
business like games, video games. There is
Video games, is that a kind of business? I don't know.
video games or restaurant or
Restaurants, completely agree.
something like that. So you can
Again, we get that something like that.
feel feel happy with that.
And again, you can feel happy with that is just quite basic language. So I don't think he fully answered that question. There are lots of businesses that benefit from tourism. And what negative effects might a city have because of too much tourism? Again, straightforward answers here. There are lots of possibility, right? Traffic, overcrowding. Maybe some tourists don't really respect the local culture. Maybe it makes the city a lot more expensive, like to go to museums and things like this. So those are obvious answers. Some tourists, maybe they throw trash or something, or that it makes the city dirtier, something like this. These are all possible candidate answers that, a person at IELTS level should have some experience of thinking about this and talking about this, at least at B2 C1 level.
I don't think so. There is a problem with that because the
I don't think there's a problem, but there is for some people. I agree with you. I think tourism is great. I think all countries benefit from tourism, all countries benefit from cultural exchanges, all of that good stuff. I agree with you. But if I'm in a language exam and the examiner asks me to explain what some negative benefits are, or sorry, what some negative effects are, I am ready to talk about some of them and not say, I don't know, I don't think there are any.
when uh, when there is a lot of tourism in your country,
That means, not that's mean.
your country is beautiful to people, and that's
Cool, but you're talking about like positive, or you're talking about reasons why people go. But the question needs you to discuss some of the negative impacts of tourism.
uh, like what I said, rise of the economy of the
Candidate has to repeat ideas.
country, and that's give the country a lot
Not that's give, but that gives.
of benefits like money and yeah.
Why do some people dislike too much tourism in their city? So I'm really determined to get an answer for this, even though the candidate has said, like, I don't see why there are any problems. It's like, well, okay, let's tackle the same question, but from a different angle. Why do some people dislike tourism?
Hmm. That's tricky question actually.
It's not pollution, overcrowding, making the city too expensive. Some visitors are not respectful. Maybe some visitors speak a foreign language in the other city, and that makes people uncomfortable. Um, you know,
But uh, in some countries, people don't like tourism because they are maybe make some problems or something like that. But I don't think so. I don't think so. The people, the local people,
but the question isn't what do you think. The question is why do some people dislike tourism?
hate tourism for that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That is the end of the. Okay, so I think this is pretty easy to give scores for. Let's jump into it. Fluency and coherence. We're going to start with a 5. So, many of your I actually like many of your answers, especially in part 1. I mean, I like the content of your answers, and even one or two in part 3. However, they are mostly underdeveloped. Second, also, the hesitations or breakdowns or false starts, whatever you want to call them, where you start speaking and but when you start speaking and you this type of stuff, breakdowns, put a noticeable strain on the listener. And often people, candidates say, well, how can I improve my fluency? I can't give an answer to how can I improve my fluency. This would be, if a student came to me and said, okay, fluency is a problem that I have, I would approach it the following way. First of all, I would test the student. I would see where they have problems with their fluency. Secondly, I would look in detail at what fluency is, so the student actually understands what that is, and then I would set up a bunch of tasks designed specifically to help that student with fluency. But oftentimes this isn't a case of strategizing. Oftentimes this is a case of just being more comfortable with the language. Lower level learners just won't be fluent, because if you don't have enough grammar and vocabulary, generally you're not very fluent. I'm Sometimes I'm reasonably fluent in Chinese, but my grammar and vocab is so bad in Chinese. But I with the words that I know, I can be quite fluent. So sometimes you can, and sometimes you get speakers of English like this. But in general, you have to raise your basic level of English, I think, in order to become more fluent. Lexical resource, we have 5. So in some parts of the test, you demonstrate knowledge of common and less common words, and even a little amount of collocation. However, it is clear that you lack the lexical resource to speak about topics in detail. At least to me, that's clear. So when I'm asking you about what you remember about your school, your happy memories with your friends, a memorable birthday, or reasons why people don't like tourism, it's clear to me that you don't have the vocab to go into detail. You can talk about the basics. You can say it's good, it's bad, it's useful, it's fun, it's important, it's valuable, maybe. But when you have to back it up with details, of course, this is a problem with fluency and coherence, but it's also, I think, a problem with vocab, that you just don't have the vocab to go to that more detailed layer. Grammatical range and accuracy 5. So again, at the beginning, it at in it at times you showed some nice grammar. I would like to do something, or I would change something, or if I were to do something. That's good grammar. That's quite complex grammar. However, you don't show any real awareness of time and tense in English. If I'm asking you about the past, you talk about the present. Sometimes I ask you about the present and you talk about the past. It's just the most noticeable thing to see. You also have semi-regular, I would say semi-regular mistakes with the present simple. The present simple accounts for about 60% of spoken English. And so you just have to know the present simple. As I say, nice, simple rule of thumb, a general rule for me when I'm measuring. If a candidate can't regularly, consistently use present simple, I can't really say they are higher than an intermediate. Usually present simple is acquired at upper intermediate or even advanced. It's really strange how language acquisition in English works. The most basic, the most fundamental, the most commonly used bit of grammar, present simple, just causes problems for everyone who is under upper intermediate. So for me, it's a nice dividing line. Anyway, pronunciation, I think 6. I think we can award the 6. So in general, it's quite easy to understand almost everything that you say. However, your tone is a little downbeat. Just feels like you're not very interested, or you don't want to be there, or you're a little bit negative, or something like that. Now, I know as a person you're not, right? As a person, you're just a regular guy, you're fine. But sometimes when we feel nervous, sometimes we can speak quietly, or we can feel like we can speak too deep, or it feels like we're not very interested. This sometimes leads to mumbling, So mumbling is when you're making noises but not saying words like. And what we find very often is when people speak in downbeat, negative, pessimistic tones, they tend to mumble. They tend to mumble a lot more. Yeah. So overall, we get 5.25, which rounds down to a overall 5.25, which rounds down, of course, to a 5.0. So intermediate, the high end of intermediate. And I think, that is fair. The candidate is a B1 user of English. I don't think the candidate is a B2 user of English, at least in speaking, or at least in this speaking test. Of course, it's very, very possible that the candidate was just a bit nervous and had a bad day or something like that. We do see big gaps. One day a candidate can be a 6.5, the next day they can be a 5.0. It depends on a number of factors. I know, sometimes meeting a strange person online on Zoom, knowing it's going to be recorded, that can be kind of stressful. Areas of improvement, I would say, I know it's tough, but try to work on your tone. It's very noticeable. You simply have to fix the basic mistakes with grammar. I think if I gave this candidate a pre-intermediate A2 grammar test, I don't think the candidate would pass an A2 grammar test. I really think, in speaking in IELTS, we are very generous with the grammar. If I was making, if I was making the criteria for marking grammar, it would be a lot harsher. I don't think the candidate has higher than pre-intermediate grammar. Um, and I would also say, I think you have to work on your general English before really taking IELTS. There are some students where you just think, well, you're just, if you need like a 6.5 or something in the test, I just don't think you're ready to think about IELTS. I think you have to work on the language first. Usually what we do, or usually what is done at language schools, for example, if you want to take a B2 exam, you do a B2 course in general English first, so that you have the grammar, the vocabulary, the skills, reading, writing, listening, pronunciation, reading, writing, listening, speaking, so that you have those B2 skills developed first, and then you look at the exam technique. Without the fundamental English skills, you can't learn IELTS technique to get a higher score. It's one of, I have to make a video on this, I think, because there are so many sources online that tell you lies. So many sources that tell you lies. But yeah, sorry, I'm going off topic here. My fluency and coherence is at 5.02. Anyway, so that's my score for the candidate. 5.0, close to 5.5, but I think probably the candidate is an intermediate English speaker. But I hope you enjoyed that breakdown of the candidate's candidate speech. Please always remember that if I give negative feedback, it is not criticism of the candidate as a person, right? All of the candidates that I've spoken to, they've been wonderful, super nice, super friendly, super polite, really enjoyed speaking with every single candidate I've had on the channel. Please don't mistake criticism for your language performance with criticism of you as a person, because that's not what I'm here to do. Yeah, and again, it's just to help you to understand how an examiner might view the language that you use in a test, and that's it. But I'll leave it there for now. If you would like your own free practice IELTS speaking test, or if you would like me to check your IELTS writing, then you have to do this through the Telegram channel. A link to the Telegram channel is given below with all of the instructions on how to do this. But for now, I will leave it there, and I will see you again very soon. Bye bye.